This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another SoulCharge episode. Today is a power tool episode, and the tool today is how can you leverage a challenge into profit? So when a challenge presents itself, when you are faced with an unexpected situation, oftentimes it can be easy to settle in the moment for what it is, right? Or what the perception is of that limitation or of that challenge. And I want to share a story of something that happened to me in the time that I was doing the development feldspar in Eagle. So one of the things that I chose to do with the financing of that development was to get a hard money loan. And in the process of getting a hard money loan, hard money and its accessibility, part of why it's accessible is because the interest rate is, sometimes triple of what market rates are. And so it's super expensive long-term, especially in construction, because you don't know how long a house is really going to take to be built, but it can be really uncertain when you're using hard money and doing a construction project, because you don't know, one, how long everything's going to take, but every day the clock is ticking, the interest is still being charged, and every time you need an extension, they charge an exorbitant amount for those extensions. And so in the construction of that subdivision, the way that the man that set up the initial reserve account, the way that he had set that up was shorter term than typical, because he knew that if he did that, and I'm of course like optimistic Olive, I'm like, yeah, we can totally get this done in 9 months, right? 6 months, parts of it, not the whole project. But so he had set up the interest and the points based on 6-month windows. Because that was set up, every time there was an extension, like I said, I had to pay huge amounts of money in points. We're talking like 6-figure extension fees. So all the while I'm carrying not just the costs that go along with the subdivision, but the costs of the loan, the costs of the amount we've drawn on, etc. So I started to see, right, that the profit margins are dwindling quickly. And so I've had the thought, okay, instead of getting stressed about this, instead of thinking that this is a problem, instead of getting into any energy except the clarity of how this is going to go, how else can I recoup those fees? So I started thinking to myself, and of course, at the time, I'm a real estate agent, right? I have a real estate team. We rep buyers, sellers, developers, builders. And so I thought, I'm going to call this lender and I am going to require that they refer me to the best developers that they finance in our area and see if I can rep some of those builders and developers. And so my lender ends up connecting me with a developer in the area, and we go on to represent him in his community. I think we ended up selling 40 to 50 houses, but ended up recouping a large part of the profit lost that I would have captured. And so this brings us back to this tool, right? Which is, it's very easy when you are faced with a challenge to look at it for what it is, look at it at face value. And I want to encourage you to look at it actually in a multifaceted approach and how you can actually make that challenge work for you. And so in the example I shared, right, of seeing, oh shit, we're literally losing the profit. That was the whole reason we went through all of, this project and this experience. Instead of looking at that and getting stuck there, I made a decision. How can I make the most of this? How can I turn this perceived loss into a win? How can I turn this into being fully aligned into what I want? And so that type of thinking allows you to approach opportunities, to approach your business in a way that is truly limitless. And when you look at your business and your opportunities like that, and you look at it in a way that has that mindset, you attract opportunities to you that are also in that field of resonance. And so what happens, and this is what happened in this example for me, is I saw the challenge, I faced the challenge and said, okay, how do I mitigate this? I came up with the idea, oh, I'll just have the lender who's charging me all these fees pay me back by giving me a referral that essentially closes the gap on those fees. And then ensure that in that opportunity, I'm maximizing it, right? I'm not just saying, okay, great, I've gotten this amazing referral. How can I then maximize that opportunity? And then all of a sudden, it starts to move into this exponential game instead of this linear game. So many of you are playing a linear game. So many of you are not using your incredible creatress capacity to look into the eyes of a challenge and actually create from it. Create from nothing, create from adversity, and start to look at everything is happening for you. Everything is happening so that, finish the sentence. If this didn't happen for me, caught my language there. If this situation didn't happen for me, I couldn't tell this story. I couldn't share with you a way to look at life differently. And also, I wouldn't have met all the people that came from that experience. I could go on forever, all the things that wouldn't have happened if I would have just looked at the challenge at face value. If I would have just looked at the challenge at face value and said, okay, on the P&L for this company, unfortunately, we didn't capture the profit that we intended. We didn't really capture what we had set out to. That's not an option in my book. We are here for a reason, and we will stop at nothing to follow through. And maybe that's what's missing for you. Maybe that fire, maybe that sense of urgency. And I want to be clear with something. The sense of urgency I am talking about is certainty, not hustle, not coming from lack. It is, I came here to win and I will win. Of course, not at the expense of relationships or the collective, right? We always have to go for the win, win, win. I heard that once, right? The win for me, the win for you, and the win for humanity. Like, that's what this is about. But I came here for a purpose, and I'm not stepping down until I fulfill that. Maybe it's a squiggly line. Most often it is. It's not a lot of times this direct shot, but I'm here for the outcome I set out to and set out to accomplish. And so often in life, we set out to the outcome and we get our asses kicked, right? We get life just hands it to us. But we remember what we came here to do. And so it doesn't mean we don't get banged up a little bit or a lot of it, but we come back to, why did we do this in the first place, right? I didn't build Feldspar in the first place to make a bunch of money, right? Of course, it was to make profit, be successful in this, but it was also to show myself and demonstrate for others that you can see something and figure out a way to bring it all together. You can see opportunity and not stop at, oh, I wish I could make that happen. You actually could go the distance and put all the pieces and parts together and benefit from that. And so this tool to land the plane around this story and the examples that I've given you is, you know, how can you make your challenges? How can you take what looks like a block, what looks like, a fork in the road, and actually create from it, actually make magic from the mess? Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.